Hey guys, it's me, Nalthazar, and welcome to another video. In this one, we're going to take a look at some big news. So, the first of our big news pieces is that if you've scrolled through the vault, you might have seen today that we have Eldraine Vanguards now. So, there are 8 of them. We're going to take a look at all of them, go over which ones are worth targeting, and that's pretty cool. The second one is, if you haven't seen my Will and Rowan Kenrith video, I actually got to chat on the phone with some people at Octagon today, and I am really excited to announce that we've formed a little bit of a partnership. So they are going to be granting me access to some exclusives, and then there's going to be a few other really cool things in the works with that too. I don't want to share it yet, that the other things, because I think that if it's a surprise, it'll be more exciting when they come. But needless to say, in the next month or so, expect to see some really exciting, really cool things coming up on the channel. I'm super excited about this. I was kind of like a little kid running to the ice cream truck when I was running to my car today to come home and make the video on Will and Rowan. It was just, it's really exciting. The people at Octagon, everyone that I've talked to, they were all like really cool. So really nice people over there, and so I couldn't be more thrilled about that. Now the Vanguards. Let's get into the Vanguards. So we've got 8 new Vanguards. You'll see that I have half of them right now. I really need to get my hands on the other 2 mythics for sure, but the first one is Garruk, Cursed Huntsman. So the passive ability for this one is going to have it so that while you control the creature with the greatest power, your creatures get +2/+2. So it just sort of goes hand in hand with current Garruk's third ability. And then the first ability, this +0, so I guess just 0, is going to create a Vicious Wolf token. That's the same type of token that the Garruk Planeswalker produces, and is going to pair very nicely with Voja, because you're getting wolves every turn, which is super fantastic. And then finally, the -4 is destroy target creature your opponent controls, and then draw a card. So this one is pretty cool. If you put it in conjunction with Voja, that's pretty nice. I happen to think that for removal, the Liliana Planeswalker Vanguard, is a bit better, just in that you can use the removal repeatedly, and the tokens that come out are just a little bit stronger than the Vicious Wolf tokens. So this one is a little bit underclassed there. Oko. Oh man, so I have to say this one, I was so excited for this card. Well, let's go over it. It ruined some of my dreams here. So Oko is 11. It's going to create a food token at +1 at -2. I feel like this, by the way, kind of proves that Paper Oko was a mistake. It should have been -2, not a plus. Sorry, a minus ability, not a plus ability. But that's another story for another time. So target creature's power and toughness becomes 3/3. That creature loses all of its evergreen abilities. Then it gains the Elk subtype. Oh man, so I tried this out. I made a token deck, and I turned my tokens into Elks, thinking that this would be like Kenrith's transformation, but on steroids, and that I could use it on all of my creatures. And then it just turned my creatures into 3/3s. I had so many stacks, and the stacks on stacks on stacks became a 3/3, which makes me think that Kenrith's transformation is actually supposed to do what Oko here does, and that it might be going to be seeing a fix soon, which makes me a little bit sad because I love that card so much. I love it so much. But this has to mean that this is the way it was intended. So -5, exchange the control of your opponents and your first creatures. So I mean, that's kind of mediocre, right? I mean, you're exchanging creatures. Ideally you're making a deck where you've got bigger stuff than your opponent. The cool thing about this is that it produces a food token every turn. So for food objectives, this is going to be fantastic. And then just in the event that your opponent does play something nasty, you can just be like, yeah, that's mine now. But other than that, it doesn't exactly work how I was initially hoping it would. Rowan, Fearless Sparkmage. We've got Adamant Red. Deal 1 damage to each creature your opponent controls. Those creatures can't block this turn. That's a really cool passive, especially if you pair this with just a bunch of red conversion. I mean, you could just be making a whole bunch of red matches a turn and getting that to trigger a bunch of times, which is super sweet. The +1 ability, I can't wait to get my hands on this, seriously. So target creature you control gets +2/+0 and first strike until end of turn. If that creature is a knight, it gets +3/+0 and gains double strike until end of turn. So if you put this in a knight deck, it's 11 mana, and that +1 you can just use to give one of your knights 3/0 and double strike every turn. So let's say that you run this, an Embercleave, and the Royal Saiyans over here. Spoiler alert, they also give double strike. You can have 3 creatures that have double strike for like most of the game. You can just do so much damage. So yeah, I'm really excited to try that out. -8, gain control of each opposing creature until end of turn. Those creatures gain haste. You cannot control more than 4 creatures at the same time. So this is basically Insurrection, the red card, Insurrection from Paper Magic, except in Puzzle Quest form. Not being able to control more than 4 creatures makes sense. So you won't be able to take like too many things, but nonetheless, this is a great way of just like finishing your opponent off. It's kind of like just like a finish him, right? So this one I don't have. I really want it. Next time I get 400 pinkies, I'm definitely going to be targeting Rowan, Fearless Sparkmage. The Royal Saiyans. These guys are actually really cool. I like them too. So this Resourceful 4 is surprisingly useful. So deal 1 damage to your opponent's planeswalker, then drain 1 mana from your opponent's hand. This is going to happen when you draw cards in excess of that first one. It can trigger up to 4 times a turn. So you can drain 4 mana and do 4 damage every turn just for having this thing. It also, with the 0 ability, gives you card filtering. So discard a card, draw 2, which is pretty solid. And then at -3, target creature you control gets +3/+0 and gains double strike. So for the mythics, I think that the best one, just like looking at all of them, is definitely Rowan, Fearless Sparkmage. I mean, you can really, anywhere you are in the game, you can use this, put it with some knights, and do some pretty nasty work. So this is the one that I'm most excited to get. The Royal Saiyans are also very powerful. I've been doing quite a bit of testing with them. If you check out my video on Will and Rowan, you'll see this card in action in 2 of the decks that I show off. And so this one's actually a pretty strong one, but as this one's double strike comes from a minus ability, whereas this one's double strike comes from a plus ability, I'm inclined to say that this one's going to be just a little bit better. As for Oko and Garruk is definitely playable and good. Oko, I'm inclined to think is just for events and gimmicks. So, yeah. All right. The rares. We've got 4 new rares. We've got Garruk, we've got another Oko, and we've got another Will and Rowan. This Garruk is pretty sweet. It converts more gems to green for us. You might know that I love converting gems to green, or any other color for that matter, so I like this one. The downside to it for me is that it's 14 mana. It's a bit expensive. For -1, you get to create a 3/3 beast token, and then for -4, all of your creatures get 6/6 Berserker and Trample until end of turn. It might take a little bit longer than you think to get there, because especially with this converting gems to green, it coming down on a green gem, and the likelihood that you're going to run other green gem conversion, you might find that you're pinging a bunch of shields off of this thing, and it's just a +1 to convert 2 gems to green, with the added bonus of eventually you get to use that bottom bit. So it's good, but it's not great. I would definitely save pinkies for targeting the mythics on that one. Oko the Trickster. Here we get to permanently buff a creature for +1. So you get to buff it +2/+2, but just +1 loyalty. The 0 is target creature you control gets XX and prevent damage until end of turn, where X is this support's shield. This will be really good on a Berserker creature, especially because like as you're using this and pumping up and pumping up and pumping up, and then you then can just use this and pump up even more. So you've got some pretty cool things going on between those two abilities. And then this last ability is kind of just like you win, right? So creatures you control get +10/+10 until end of turn, and then those creatures gain trample. Now, this is a card that is probably not going to be super great in Platinum, but in like any of the other tiers, you're going to put in some mad work with Oko the Trickster. Rowan and Will, these guys are both going to directly benefit from being played with the Will and Rowan planeswalker. So this one is target creature gains Berserker. If it's an opposing creature, it gets -2/-0 until the beginning of your next turn. So this Berserker is a permanent gain of Berserker. And then at -1, you can deal damage to each opposing creature that has Berserker or is disabled. So you could use this to give things Berserker, you could use the Planeswalker to give things Berserker, and then start using that -1 to ping them. And then at -6, you've got destroy and trigger 3 of your activated gems. So this could have some really cool synergy with like cards like Pyromancer's Goggles or some other cards that have activated gems, but it's a bit on the slow side. And so since it's a bit on the slow side, it's not extremely powerful. It's just more of like a fun gimmicky card. And then Will Kenrith, I actually really like this one with Resourceful. So once again, if you check out my video on it, you'll actually get to see that I'm using it in a Resourceful deck. So you draw 2 cards every turn, like 2 additional cards. So now you're drawing 3 cards instead of 2 in a turn, which is pretty good. The -2 ability is actually really useful. So target creature's power toughness becomes 0/3, and then you get rid of all of its evergreen abilities. So the first match that I played that I was using this, my opponent played Razia, and then I just used this -2, and it took away all of Razia's abilities and prevent damage, everything, all gone, became a 0/3. And then I just pinged it with a Berserker, and Razia was no more. So Razia is scary. Will Kenrith says, no, it's not. And then -6, copy each non-copy spell in your hand. Those cards gain half of their mana. This I never really found a use for this bottom ability. I just really like the first and second ability, but I'm sure that there will be situations where you can use this and do some pretty neat things. So you could use this and get like a bunch of Stitch in Times, or you could use it to get a bunch of other spells that you like. But for the most part, the +1 and -2 are what you're going for. So out of all of these, I would honestly suggest save up your crystals, get the mythic packs, and try your hand at getting Rowan and the Royal Saiyans, because these ones are definitely the strongest of the lot and are going to be really fun to play with. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.